welcome back to another episode of the Higher Level Podcast. So tonight, James Dillon and myself are going to be talking a bit about, obviously, the weekend's UFC. And obviously, James, you've had a few guys out from the gym fighting, with Mark, Lorenzo and Logan all out. So no better place to start than there. Obviously, Mark, you were out at Aries. How was the show, first of all? How was your experience out there with Mark cornering them?
It was good, man. So the show was obviously in Paris. First time I've been to France and stuff. It was good, but the venue was the Dome de Paris. It was like a Thursday night show. I think it was about 5,000 people. It was sold out. It was class, man. The card was good. The main event was a guy, Michael Lebeau, who Stevie fought in UFC against a guy, another kind of veteran French guy, but everyone was good. It was basically just a smaller version of the UFC, how it's run. We were there for, I think me and Mark went on the Monday. He did media stuff today. He had something missing with his medical that the guys sorted and stuff like that. So it was basically just like a smaller scale of the UFC. Impressive, but the French crowd was actually much better than what I thought they were going to be. It wasn't like a UK crowd, but they're right behind the fights and stuff. It was cool.
And obviously, it was on UFC Fight Pass, which is always a bonus because it's just more eyeballs. And Mark's performance, it was a tough fight getting into this one. This was going to be a tough test for Mark. But he passed it with flying colours. I mean, obviously, you'll have seen things that I'll have missed, but just watching it, the one thing I noticed about Mark, it's just how calm, how composed he is. He doesn't. I mean, you see some fighters, they seem to be stressed out and overcome with certain scenarios, and Mark Jones just seems to take everything in his stride. He's a guy that looks like he's extremely confident, and he's got the look of a guy that just knows his opportunity will come to finish the fight, and it did.
He's basically just carried over for where he left off with the previous pro fights. I think on paper the guy's Russian. He was introduced as French and stuff, but I think he's actually living in Germany now. But I think on paper this guy's maybe the hardest fight for Mark. He's quite an extensive background in other martial arts. If you go on his Instagram, there's videos now of him training with Khabib. He'd been at Jackson's for a while. Kieran Reid's trained him at Jackson's 2017. Gleison Tebow cornered him, so he's kind of taking the role as head coach and stuff. So the guy's been run about very, very good people. But it didn't. What you're saying about Mark is right. He's so composed and relaxed in there. He's very instinctual, Mark. He's got an instinct that not a lot of fighters have. Whether it's offensively or defensively, he's very calm and composed. I've spoken about his mindset before, but he's not a normal 4-0 pro, Mark. We were talking about like most of these pro guys are getting padded records. They're taking easy fights on local shows or down south, and they're getting matched with guys that are not very good, or they know they're going to beat them and stuff like that, which is unfortunately is part of the business. But Mark isn't like a normal person. Like the fact that he's been to Johannesburg in his third pro fight and now fought in Paris on Aries in his fourth pro fight, that isn't a natural kind of path for a lot of pro fighters. You know what I mean? Most of them are going to be fighting on these wee local shows and then progressing on undercards and cage wars and stuff like that. But he handles everything in his stride. There's definitely nearly an element where the better guys are going to bring out the best in him. So he's got gears to go up. The opponent himself was very dangerous, but Mark shut him down. He has a knack of throwing hard, fast kicks and punches to kind of jam your feet up, and then he'll shoot a double leg. And he's quite an aggressive top game grappler. He'll control you like that Russian style and just beat you up. So Mark just put him on his heels. It's really, obviously, really hard to wrestle on the back foot, and basically he didn't get a chance to shoot because Mark was pinging him with shots. Whenever he did come forward, Mark would disengage, reset, and reapply his pressure, his counters. And what ended up happening was the guy throwing shots versus a guy who was placing his shots. So Dada was throwing everything at Mark. and missing, and Mark was just taking his time and picking his shots, and he looked like it's a level of maturity in a performance like that, well beyond 4 pro fights. Like I know guys who are in they're well into double figures with pro fights. The guy do what he's doing, and it's just a carryover for not even going back as far as the pro debut. He was doing it at amateur with Stringer and stuff like that. From a coaching perspective, the biggest takeaway I took for it was, so Mark's on like a 14 fight streak now. He's not lost since he came to higher level. And he came off a couple of wins, but he had a draw with a Swedish guy on a Budo show, I think it was.
Yeah,
he got dropped in round 1, and he was making a wee defensive mistake. I'll not mention what it was, but he was making a wee mistake there. And that's a way he's eradicated it through training and drilling it out, because the same move would have got him in trouble there at the weekend or on Thursday in Paris, and it's been drilled out. So that was the biggest takeaway for me, is that we've highlighted a problem and we've fixed it. And in between fights, he's still adding to his game and stuff like that. He's obviously still progressing, and he was never in trouble again there. So that's 4 pro fights. He had a wee bit of adversity with a calf kick and stuff like that, but nothing major. He stayed on in Paris and was sightseeing, walking for the rest of the weekend and stuff like that. So he ate a couple of calf kicks, but he shut it down with the stance switch, and then he started countering it, which is testament to his kind of fight IQ. Yeah,
and obviously you had a couple of other guys out fighting. You had Lorenzo Perenni out fighting a lad that's come in and joined the gym recently, and then you had obviously Logan, who's been with the gym a very long time. So just talk me through both guys' fights, performances, and give me your thoughts on it.
So Lorenzo obviously joined for, I think he was training at CVA Jiu-Jitsu in Edinburgh, which is a very good jiu-jitsu club. He'd been up in Aberdeen a wee bit, and then he'd done a wee bit of sparring at ours before, but it came over, and I think initially his idea was he wanted to turn pro straight away. I can't remember his record was, like 6-5 or 7-5 or something at the time. And pretty soon, I didn't even have to say to him, after about 3 weeks of training, Lorenzo's like, I'm not ready to turn pro. I'll keep fighting amateur now, and we're working on stuff in the gym. So he had a wee gap where he wasn't competing for a while. He's very young, so he's been fighting since he was 16, I think, and he's experienced now as well. So that's him 9-5 after that win. But so we slowed down on the turning pro talk, and just got to work on rounding out his game, his skill set, his performance. He's fighting a good guy. He's fighting a guy called Jamie Roper, who's for Andrew Fisher's team. So again, very good gym. And Lorenzo's just went over and he started attacking him pretty much straight away. He's walked at him, backed him up, forced Roper. I think Roper's threw a kick to try and keep Lorenzo off. He's caught it and pulled it straight into wrestling, took him down, and he's caught him in that dash. And again, credit to his previous coach, Ben, who his jiu-jitsu has always been good. He's got a very good triangle and stuff like that, but we've added a fair bit to his wrestling, and we're working on his striking and stuff like that. So he's now, I think he's still only 21, Lorenzo, but he's 9-5. He's matched on Cage Warriors Academy in March, and he'll probably end up another 2 or 3 amateur fights before we look at turning him pro later in the year. But it's an excellent performance again for him. It's very clinical. He's taken nothing back. He's not been punched in his last 2 fights. He's controlled the distance. He's nailed a couple of takedowns and went right into an offensive cycle of attacks where he's just chaining subs, and he's very good at those movements and stuff like that. So good performance for him. It's good to get him out again. It looks like he's growing in confidence, which is coming for the amount of work he's putting in the gym. And he's running about at lightweight. There's a lot of good training partners from the lightweight in our gym. You know what I mean? He's there with Mark all the time. He's obviously got Dylan and Keir weight class below. He's got Stevie and Danny Henry there. He's never going to be short with training partners there. And he's got a lot of guys with massive experience who like him just because of his attitude and his work ethic, and they're kind of helping bring him on. So he's got a big future, that kid.
And I take it part of that as well. You've just mentioned all the guys there that are in the gym when he's come into the gym. and that talk about pro, it's when he gets in there and gets the experience training with guys like that day in, day out. Is that when the realisation comes in that, right, maybe I just need to take a bit more time?
I think he just quickly realised there's some holes in his game and stuff like that, which the impressive thing is it was him that came to that conclusion. Like, I obviously knew it and stuff, but like, he's been smart enough to come and say to me, I'll wait. And like, he could have been like, I'm desperate to turn pro, I want to make money and see where I can go. I've had 12 amateur fights or whatever. But the fact that he's came to that realisation himself shows you that he's thinking about his game, and he's quite self-conscious of it, which not all fighters are. Some of them are either ignorant or arrogant. But he's not. He's fully aware of his strengths and weaknesses, and the kid is getting better. He does everything you ask him. He's a very, very hard worker. He's one of the kids that stays in the gym. Like, he'll come in at the start of the week and just sleep in the gym all week with Sean and them, and it's paying off for him.
And then obviously Logan's somebody you've had with you for quite a long time now.
Yeah, he's potentially, he's maybe the best amateur in the country now in terms of his skill set. Him or Sean Clancy, but Logan's, I think that's him 8-1 or something. He had some time off before, obviously the COVID, but he had an injury to his hand before that robbed him of a wee bit of time. He's been a bit a while. But skill set wise, he's extremely well rounded. He can do everything. He's coming off a loss there, which is his first loss, which was, he got clipped with a shot. He approached the fight a wee bit too erratic, which isn't like him. He got clipped with a shot and that, and it capitalised on. But he's come back there, and he fought a good guy. He fought a kid for Manchester's top team. It was on their show. The kid was undefeated, a bit younger, a bit taller, and Logan's pretty much just went out, and we'd seen a wee bit of tape of the kid. He shot the distance, took him down, went to a leg ride. The kid was good at popping up, so he went leg ride and took the back, and he's good at finishing. Logan, he's not too far off his brown belt in jiu-jitsu. He's good wrestling, good striker. He's also a freak athlete for 57. For 57 kilos, I think he benches like 110 kilos and stuff like that. He's a strong kid.
Deceptively strong. When you look at, you wouldn't think that looking at Logan. When
he grabs you feel it. Do you know what I mean? I've seen him control guys much bigger. He is, and he's got an engine, but he's quite a smart fighter as well. But it looked like he was back to his best there. He's had some good performances, but he's the same. I think he's got the plan with him is he's doing the Cage Warriors Academy. March, he'll fight for the title there. That's matched. And then he'll probably turn pro. It'll be him and Sean Clancy early next year. He'll turn pro, so we'll have another pro flyweight and a pro welter, I think.
Yeah. So you just need to get Logan doing interviews now?
He still hates interviews. He still doesn't like interviews. You need to pound. You need to just turn up at the gym and pounce on him, man.
No, if you're saying he's as strong as that, I'll get my heat kicked in. We'll get him doing an interview at some point. I think I've asked him 3 times now, and it's me politely telling me to fuck off. So very politely, I must add, by the way. So all in good for the lads in the gym. Good progression. They're all moving along nicely. So happy coach then.
I rounded off the year pretty well. We obviously had the PFL final the week before, which was a wee bit of a kick in the stomach a bit. But it's been a good year, man. We've competed at the highest level of sport, and we've pushed on. And next we've got Paul Craig, UFC Rio. So that's 5 weeks on Saturday, and then Keir and Craig Mopp are on Bellator, obviously, in February. So things are starting to go, man. So things are starting to. We'll have a wee bit of not downtime. We've still got to be training and stuff, but you can switch off then for a week or so, and then the main focus is getting Paul ready, getting Keir ready, and then I'll be back to full pelt. I think PFL had a guy at Eris looking at Mark, like a scout type of thing. Eris are interested in Mark signing there, and then Stevie's going into that next season, which I think is going to be March or something. So it's not going to be it's basically just crossing over. Do you know what I mean? Get back to work.
And it's one of them as well with the PFL. Obviously, it didn't go Stevie's way, and that don't know if it hurts more because of the prize money involved in it. I mean, that's definitely. But at the same time, getting to the final of the PFL, where Stevie was obviously in retirement, who he beat along the way, and then obviously it'll be an increased money next season in PFL. So I mean, you obviously want to get the win, of course you do, but it's fantastic for Stevie to get to where he got to, and obviously he's now back with them next year.
It's definitely he stopped risen from it just for the Pettis wins even, but it was it's what, how many times you're going to get a chance to fight for a world title and $1 million, but it's been a positive for him. He was told he wouldn't fight again, and now he's been back. He's had that close fight with Martinez, headlined Madison Square Garden against Pettis, came back, beat Pettis again, and then back to Madison Square Garden and just lost it, just get caught with that perfect shot off of Mercer. So it's been all positive for him. It was a hard one to take for a couple of days, but what can you do? You have to just get back to work.
That's part of the game, isn't it? Especially when you're fighting at that level. It's a game of inches.
Yeah, that is it. The level he's operating at is higher than just about anybody else in the country.
Aye. And it's not just that, it's how long he's been fighting at that level. But you look at how many fights he's had in the UFC, and I mean, that in itself is, we've spoken about this before, just to stay at that level, it is so difficult.
You only have to look at what the rest of the guys, the UK lightweights are doing. There's no a UK lightweight's done what he's done.
No.
If you put names against names, I mean, Casey just lost to Johnson, who Stevie beat. He's got big names on his record, you know what I mean? So his career's, I think sometimes he doesn't get the credit that he's due for his career. He's in more ways won UFC than Dan Hardy and Pickett and stuff like that, do you know what I mean? But he's also in a tougher weight class than the guys were. But he's obviously not done yet, but at some point he'll be able to sit back and be like, what a career I've had. He's now, that was his 35th pro fight. Do you know what I mean? He's had 11 in the UFC, he's had 4 in PFL, he was 2 times Cage Warriors champion, he was a Obama champion. He's done alright for a kid who started at 18.
I think he's definitely done alright. And well, we're obviously talking about UFC. Let's an interesting weekend. There's some, again, decisions that come up that a lot of people didn't agree with. So obviously we're talking about we'll speak about the main event and stuff like that in a minute, but we'll focus on the Paddy Pimblett fight. So I'll be honest with you, I looked at the fight, and when the decision came out, I was shocked, to be honest. I might be wrong. I have only watched the fight once, and it was with commentary, so I would need to watch it back. But I found it difficult to score the fight for Paddy in that instance, especially a unanimous decision. I'm not saying it was a daylight robbery, but to me, I felt like Jared Gordon had done enough in that fight.
It was close. That's the thing. It's like everybody's crying it like it was the worst decision I've ever seen, type of thing. But it wasn't really. If you watch it with the commentary is obviously quite biased. But I never really listened to the commentary. I scored it actually at the time to Paddy, and then when I watched it back, it is a close fight, man. The outcry, I think, has not been so much of the fact that he won. I think it's more the fact that he's not as good as what people thought he was. Do you know what I mean? He didn't. Even though he got the decision, rightly or wrongly, he looked terrible. He did not. He looked so hittable. He's fighting a guy who's physically bigger and stronger and if that was somebody who could hit a wee bit harder with the left hook, Paddy would have been in real trouble.
Let's talk just quickly while you said that, just before this slips out my brain. I just literally watched a Drew Dober interview, and he was discussing that he was like that Paddy fight. Now, I don't think he'll get it, and I think he said the same, but let's insert a Drew Dober into that situation. Do you feel that could have been a bad night for Paddy?
Aye, I think anybody... I think they're going to struggle to find guys for him to fight, because it's almost like Gerard Gordon might be his level. That might be the level that anybody a wee bit better than him. He's not a bad fighter. He's not great. Do you know what I mean? He's not bad. Paddy probably had harder fights in Cage Warriors than that guy. But you can tell everybody in that, maybe even the top 20, are desperate to get their hands on him, and because they know what will happen. He's eating those left hooks for fun. Somebody with Dober's power would give him serious trouble. He's the harder he tries to punch you, the higher his chin comes up. He can't keep his chin down when he's throwing punches. His balance is off. His kicking looked not too bad and stuff, but you can tell they're all lining up to fight him now. They all see what there's clear evidence in front of you. He's striking isn't great. He struggled to take Gerard Gordon down, and he's not like a great wrestler himself. Paddy's dangerous with submissions. He always has been. But he's now getting involved with these fights where he can't get a takedown and he's on his feet.
Well, it kind of goes back to, because you mentioned obviously about Lorenzo, about his grappling, how good it was, but you've shored up the wrestling, because regardless of how good your grappling is, if you can't get it to engage and get it on the ground, it becomes irrelevant.
Aye, it's that hanging. If you don't have wrestling, you don't have jiu-jitsu. And at the same time, if you don't have wrestling, you don't have striking.
Yeah.
So it's why if you panel the best coaches in the world, it's like the keystone for the whole MMA system. If you don't need to be like a fucking Division 1 wrestler, but you definitely need the ability to take somebody down if you need to take them down and to defend takedown. I'd agree.
It gives you that ability then to dictate where the fight takes place, and you can then dictate. You can take the fight to where you're strongest and where your best chance of winning the fight is.
What you're saying with Paddy is he can't get his takedowns. So he's basically in there just throwing as hard as he can, try to land on people. And it's when he's throwing with that intent, his technique is kind of gone out the window. His chin's coming up. He's getting hit with shots. His balance is off and stuff like that. And it looks like he does crack pretty hard because he's throwing everything in, but he's also getting tired. And he's leaving his cell open to get countered. And once he starts dealing with these Drew Dobers or any of the clean punchers with a bit more power than Gerard Gordon, who again looked tiny compared to Paddy, he's got to be in trouble with the guys. Do you know what I mean?
And you've got to say Paul Rimmer's a good coach. He's a smart coach, and he'll ready. Is this about where then what Paddy does in between fights now, and about trying to shore up those holes? In
theory, that's what you should be doing. But if you go back to his first UFC fight, he get banged with a left hook. And even go back to his fights in Cage Warriors, it's the same. He has to come out and be erratic with that striking because he's not got it trained into a level where it's comfortable and it's systematic. It's like, I'm going to throw as hard as I can at you and we'll end up grappling hopefully, or I'll land and hurt you. Paul Rimmer's done a great job. He's one of the best coaches in the UK. Paul Rimmer, always, you can see it with every one of these guys, but I don't know who Paddy's striking coach is. I don't think it's Paul. Paul can take credit for his submission ability and stuff like that. He's a very good grappling coach, and a good game planner and stuff like that as well. But you'd think he's been quite busy in UFC, Paddy, as well, so he's obviously making a bit of money now. He could afford to take a bit of time off and be like, I'm going to try and fix this where my chin doesn't come when I throw punches. Like I was saying with Mark had I won't mention what this is because people hear, but Mark had this tendency that I seen as an amateur, and it got him in trouble in that fight with the Swedish guy at Budo. And I think that fight was maybe 3 years ago, and that's just gone away now. Like 3 years later, he's not doing it. And it was a habit for where he's trained before, because a lot of the guys for the same gym were doing it. So is he smart enough and disciplined enough to go away and try and fix that with a legit coach? But it's kind of similar to what I'm doing with Paul Craig now. It's like right back to basics. Nobody's ever showed Paul day one footwork, and even wee things like the position his shoulders there, his feet and stuff like that. And it's boring as fuck, but it has to be done. It has to be repped until it becomes so kind of subconscious that you can be blowing out your arse, tired and hurt, and it's still there. You'll no resort back to losing your shape and whatever else. And that's what he would need to do. And it's whether his time frame allows it. He's probably about to fight in March. If there'll be a thing there where he wants to try and make as much money as possible for the bubble bursts, I think. But taking a bit of time off might not be a bad thing for him, because if he comes out straight away and says, I want to fight London show, they're like, oh, he's 4-0 in the UFC in a year. You can't really give him a back. You can't go backwards for Gerard Gordon. Like, you can't give him a lesser opponent.
And the fans won't buy into that. They absolutely won't.
No, you can see they've kind of turned on him a wee bit this week.
The real stuff.
With that, and then even just the performance itself. Like, I think I posted on Facebook saying, like, if he lost that fight, it's been the worst week I've ever seen a UFC guy have. It's like, went from being this fucking much loved kind of future UK MMA to every cunt's turned on him, which is, it's not fair, because he's a nice kid, him. And there'll be a ton of pressure on him. And he's just kind of saying what he feels and shit like that, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with him, man.
It's a problem with fans, but you like you when you come in, but when you start getting that fame and getting higher and higher, people start wanting to see you fall. That's just the nature of it. It happens in all walks of life, unfortunately.
Especially in this country, they build you up so they can destroy you. And online, it's fucking guys that you'll never meet just slaughtering you. Guys who've never thrown a punch in their life, critiquing his technique and whatever.
Yeah, and we'll just finish on this one. So obviously main event, but it was that. I'll get you again. I'll tell you my thoughts first. My layman thoughts anyway. Obviously, Jan looked like he was hurting him to the legs, but is it a tiredness thing? What from your point of view? Because he seemed to fall away from it, and to me, I was looking at it going, if he keeps going with this, he potentially is looking at finishing this fight with leg kicks. But it just, obviously I know the grappling came into play as well, but he just seemed to not be throwing as much. Was it the grappling that's then stopped him from throwing the kicks, or what did you see in that?
So first, it was a good fight. It was much more competitive than I thought it was going to be. I think it pretty much was the grappling. I think when Ankalaev wasn't looking to wrestle, Jan pretty much just kicking his legs off. He could do what he wanted to. He dragged him into a kickboxing fight. Ankalaev's boxing looked not bad in spells, but one of the easier ways to deal with a boxer is to kick his legs out. So Jan's probably the best leg kicker in that division. He's good at that, man. He also counters leg kicks really well. And I think what happened was when Ankalaev just started introducing not even full wrestling, but the threat of it, it's made Jan a wee bit more conservative with the kicks. You could see when Ankalaev did get on top of him, like, Jan wasn't getting back up. His top game stuff's excellent. It was a much better fight than I thought it was going to be. Both of them are. Ankalaev's probably the most well-rounded guy in that division. Dangerous everywhere. And Jan's like that big, tough, fucking Polish power thing. But it's a good fight. I think the draw, you can see why it was scored the draw. There's no way I think you could score it to Jan as if he won it. I thought Ankalaev won. You can't argue and dispute the draw, but it was fair enough because of the damage with the leg kicks and stuff like that, and maybe Ankalaev having that 10-8 round at the end. But it was a decent fight. It's a wee bit shitty what they've done with them with announcing that they're going to make Jamal Hill and Glover for the belt. Just bypass them two, but it's a funny weight class, that, man. It's a funny weight class.
It's just Dana White obviously didn't like the fight, and that's purely what it is. It's just Dana White saying, I didn't like that fight, you guys aren't getting it. I mean, I like the fact that Jan came over and interrupted the interview and said obviously they're not going to give him the belt because Jan's like, he won the fight, but I thought that was a bit of class for Jan.
Aye, especially when you've got Paddy telling Joe Rogan that he won easy the fight before it. He's like, it wasn't even close. He's like, it wasn't even close, lad. You're like, it fucking definitely was. It was a good fight, man. The two of them were fun to watch. I don't know why Dana White didn't like it. Like, you don't really get good fights at light heavyweight. It's usually shit kicking, so never back and forth. Do you know what I mean? They're never like, there's never like ebbs and flows to them. And that one definitely was like, Jan won the first half of the fight and Klebs came back, but Christ knows.
You just reminded me in the Paddy post-fight as well, when Joe came out and he made the comment to Joe about paying him for the interview, and I thought, oh, that's not going to go over well at all. That one's well flat.
Can't help yourself sometimes.
Well, that's much for this episode. So it's been recap. It's been good wee short time for the boys, and obviously a lot coming up for the gym. Look forward to seeing Paul out there, and I think a lot of people will be looking at that for Paul. Obviously, with the switchy gym coming over to higher level, which I think a lot of eyeballs are going to be on this one, especially from in Scotland.
Aye, we've been getting a wee bit of kind of internet interaction about it and stuff like that. So obviously, there's always a wee bit of pressure when a high-profile guy changes team.
Yeah.
Want to try and do the best we can for him and stuff like that. Did mention before the time constraints, like basically about 13 weeks, but he's putting the work in, man. There's been a noticeable difference in his technique and stuff like that. We're talking about the basic stuff, and I've probably bored him to death with what I'm making him do. Stripped it back down to kind of day one stuff, but he's putting the work in, man. He's embracing it and stuff like that. I think you'll see a different version of him, I think, moving forward. So
I think that's exciting, because look at what Paul achieved beforehand. So he can again grow as a fighter and add all those things to his game. It's he's got everything going from just his frame, his size, his jiu-jitsu. If he can add the extra things in, and especially you've just said in that division, I mean, it's
wide open. You've got Ankalev, who's just fought for the belt, and Paul's got that win there. You've got Jamal Hill, who's next fighting for it, and Paul's got that win there him as well. Do you know what I mean? So he was on a good run there before the Ustamir fight, and there wasn't much in that fight either, to be fair. But he can get this Johnny Walker fight out of the way, and you never know. He's maybe 2 fights away from the belt.
Absolutely, you just don't know. Depending on performance, what happens in the division, it's one of the divisions where it's since Jones left, it's just the ebbs and flows in. It's a crazy division. Anything can happen. And obviously, that last loss Paul had, but you've got to take into consideration the win streak he had before it. So,
aye, and then the Ustamir no lost to Nikita Krylov after that. He lost to a guy who Paul beat as well. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those weird fucking things. But he's got some big names on his record. And again, he comes out, beats Johnny Walker, and then say there's another title fight booked and somebody pulls out. He could be a late notice or whatever. That division's fucking mental.
Because the other thing I'd looked at as well, if Ankalev won the belt, you're going to be like, Ankalev must want that fight back with Paul.
Aye, 100%.
Again, Ankalev picks up the belt. Well, obviously won't the next time, but there's a lot of promise, and once again, I can hear the dogs are making an appearance in the podcast.
The wee one's down at my feet, snoring.
Sounds like a gremlin, man. Fucking hell.
He's there. He's fucking.
Jesus Christ. Right, we will wrap it on that one. What a way to end the podcast, dog snoring. Right, thanks for tuning in, everybody.